Life inside Angola Prison, America's largest maximum security facility. Before you judge the men locked behind these fences, before you assume you know who they are and what they've done, remember this. Angola Prison was built on a plantation, and some say it never stopped being one. This is Louisiana State Penitentiary, better known as Angola. It is the largest maximum security prison in the United States. A place where over 6,000 men, most serving life sentences, live, work, survive, and die. And inside these walls, stories don't just unfold. They haunt, they echo, they scar. Tonight, you will hear what very few on the outside world ever do. What life is truly like inside America's most notorious prison plantation. Because in Angola, you don't just do time. Time does you. But before we dive deep, hit like, share, and subscribe if you want more untold prison documentaries just like this one. Now let's begin. The land that remembers. Angola didn't begin as a prison. It began as death. In the 1800s, the land belonged to a man named Isaac Franklin, one of the wealthiest and most ruthless slave traders in the South. He named the plantation Angola after the region of Africa where many of the enslaved people he trafficked came from. The soil itself hold a memory of suffering, a memory of bodies bent under unbearable labor, a memory of injustice embedded so deeply the ground is said to pulse with it. And when the state of Louisiana converted this land into a penitentiary, some say they didn't erase its past. They repurposed it, because here, even in 2025, men still work the fields, still pick crops, still march in lines, still feel the same burning sun on their backs. Only difference now? Their chains come in the form of life sentences. Arriving at Angola. When a new inmate arrives at Angola, there is no mistaking where they are. There are no city sounds, no skyscrapers, no nearby towns, just rolling farmland and the feeling of being swallowed whole by isolation. The intake process begins with a blunt reality check. You're in Angola now. A phrase spoken often, not as a threat, but as a statement of fact. Because Angola is not like other prisons. And here, violence is currency, respect is armor, and survival is a full-time job. The average sentence? Life without parole. Meaning most men who enter will never leave. The moment they step inside, they are reminded this is where Louisiana sends a men it has given up on. The tier system. Angola operates on a strict tier structure. Camp F, the farm, where men spend their days doing field labor. The same labor once forced onto enslaved people. Camp D, the dungeon, one of the most feared areas, known for its harsh isolation and towering cell blocks. Camp J, now closed, the end of the line, infamous for punishment, violence, and near total isolation. Even though it's shut down, the stories told about it still terrify new arrivals. Death Row, where condemned men wait out their final years. Quiet, cold, forgotten. Each camp has its own rules, its own culture, its own dangers. Inside Angola, where you live determines everything. Your safety, your sanity, your survival. The unwritten laws of Angola. No one hands you a rule book. The inmates teach you fast. Rule number 1, respect is non-negotiable. A single wrong look can turn into a lifelong feud. Rule number 2, allies are survival tools. Here, isolation kills faster than violence. Rule number 3, never owe anyone anything. A single favor can become a chain that never breaks. Rule number 4, mind your business. Information spreads like wildfire, and knowing too much can get you burned. Rule number 5, don't let the walls get in your head. Because in Angola, the walls don't just keep you in, they break you down. Life in the cell blocks. A typical Angola cell is roughly 6 by 9 feet, 2 bunks, a toilet, a small shelf, and a constant, unending hum of men trying to cope with life sentences. Nights echo with shouting, prayers, metal banging, deals being whispered between bars. Some men write, some men exercise, some men talk to the wall for hours, some simply sit and wait for time to pass. The youngest prisoners struggle the most. The The old-timers call it the breaking point. Every new inmate hits it eventually, the instant they realize, I will likely die here. The old men of Angola. Angola has more lifers than any prison in the nation. Many inmates enter in their teens or early 20s, and by the time they're in their 50s or 60s, they become the prison's grandfathers. These men remember Angola from decades ago, when stabbings were daily, when racism was overt, when guards rode on horses with rifles ready. Some of them will tell you, it ain't the same Angola it used to be. But then they pause, look around, and add quietly, but it still ain't a place meant for living. The guards and the culture are control. Angola is larger than Manhattan. That means guards are not just officers. They're part of the ecosystem. Some are fair. Some are brutal. Some are numb. Many come from families who have worked at Angola for generations. The job passes down like a strange inheritance. And inmates often say, you don't know who to fear more, the prisoners or the guards, because the balance of power shifts constantly. In an overcrowded max security prison filled with lifers, control is not maintained by rules. It's maintained by pressure, fear, reputation, routine, the farm line. This is Angola's most controversial practice. Every morning, hundreds of inmates march in formation to the fields. They work, harvesting crops, pulling weeds, picking vegetables, maintaining massive fields under scorching Louisiana heat. The average pay? 2 to 4 cents per hour. Some call it prison labor. Others call it modern-day slavery, especially when you remember where this land came from. And the most chilling part? If an inmate collapses from exhaustion, the line does not stop. It simply moves around him. The violence they don't put in reports. When most people imagine Angola, they picture a fortress of concrete and steel. But what really makes this place legendary isn't the walls. It's the violence. Some of it is visible. Most of it is not. Angola historically had one of the highest rates of inmate-on-inmate assaults in the country. Fights don't erupt over big things. They erupt over nothing. An accidental bump. A missed excuse me. A stolen honey bun. A favor not repaid. And in a world where every man is serving decades or life, the smallest disrespect becomes a spark in a dry forest. People forget this. When you fill a prison with men who have nothing left to lose, you create a pressure cooker no human system can truly control. Knives or shanks are everywhere. You can make one out of a toothbrush, a piece of metal from a bed, a broken broom handle, even a melted plastic tray. Some prisoners carry them every moment they're awake. Some sleep with them under their pillow. Some never need one because their reputation does the work for them. And when violence happens, it happens fast. A flurry of movement, a few seconds of chaos, then silence. Sometimes the guards see everything. Sometimes they see nothing. Sometimes they choose not to see. Because in Angola, order is not kept by preventing violence. It's kept by containing it. Prison gangs, the invisible government of Angola. You don't survive long in Angola without knowing who runs each tier. Gangs aren't just groups here, they're governments. They control contraband, protection, food flow, phone access, even the unwritten rules. The most dominant groups include the Aryan-based gangs, tattooed, ruthless, and organized. They move quietly but violently. The folk nation or street-based sets, brothers from the outside who maintain loyalty on the inside. The native Angola families, not official gangs, but bloodlines of men who've been in here for generations. Then there are the solo wolves, older inmates who stand alone, respected by everyone, feared by many. In Angola, gangs don't start wars unless they have to. But when they do, the entire prison feels the tension. Peace is fragile here, and it can shatter in a heartbeat. The prison economy, money without money. Inside Angola, cash doesn't circulate, but everything has value. Everything. Cigarettes, ramen noodles, honey buns. These are currency. A man can build an entire empire from instant soup. Here's the unspoken rule. If it can be traded, it has power. Examples? 2 ramen packs equals a haircut. A honey bun equals a quick cell cleaning. A stamp equals a favor. And a few bags of chips? That might get you a guard to forget something. But the real economy lives in the shadows. Cell phones. A $30 phone outside becomes a $2,500 treasure inside. Drugs. A gram of anything becomes 10 times its street value. Food from the kitchen. Extra chicken? That's like gold. Protection. The most valuable commodity of all. Every man here is either buying, selling, working, or owing. There is no neutral position. In Angola, you're either part of the economy or you're prey within it. The Angola Rodeo, the most dangerous show in prison. For most Americans, a prison rodeo sounds like a joke. For inmates at Angola, it's one of the few times the outside world sees them as human. The Angola Prison Rodeo began in the 1960s and takes place in a massive outdoor arena. Thousands of visitors fill the stands. And then the show begins. Inmates ride bucking bulls. They race wild horses. They compete in events so dangerous that even professional cowboys refuse to attempt them. One event stands out above all: guts and glory. A poker chip is tied to the horn of a massive bull. A group of inmates stand in a circle. Whoever grabs a chip wins. But the bull doesn't care about chips. It cares about destruction. And every year, bones break, limbs snap, bodies slam into steel gates. Why do inmates volunteer? For some, it's the prize money. For some, it's the adrenaline. For many, it's the only time anyone ever cheers their name. The rodeo is spectacle, entertainment, exploitation, and opportunity, all in one. A contradiction as complex as Angola itself. The men who try to escape attempts from Angola, are rare, but when they happen, they are legendary. The prison is surrounded by the Mississippi River, dense swamps, alligators, razor wire, armed guards, and miles of farmland. In the 1990s, 3 inmates tried to sneak out in a garbage truck. They almost made it, but the truck would stop at the gate for a routine check. 2 were shot. 1 surrendered. Another man tried swimming across the river at night. He was found the next morning, hypothermic and clinging to a log. Only a handful have ever successfully escaped. Most were caught within 48 hours. Because Angola's geography isn't just isolation. It's a natural prison, a trap with no edges. The secret alliances. On the surface, Angola looks divided by race, gang, and geography. But behind closed doors, alliances exist that nobody talks about. An Aryan inmate might quietly trade with a black gang member. 2 sworn enemies might share commissary to survive a lockdown. A man with enemies on the tier might secretly be protected by someone from another camp because of an old debt, a shared past, or even respect. In Angola, alliances aren't based on friendship. They're based on necessity. The unspoken survival pact is this: today I help you. Tomorrow you help me. What happens after that depends on fate. And sometimes the people who save your life are the ones who would never speak to you in daylight. Psychological survival. The mind is the first to break. Angola doesn't just test the body. It attacks the mind. The prison environment creates a psychological storm few outsiders understand. Men experience time distortion, extreme anxiety, emotional numbness, paranoia, identity loss, hypervigilance, night terrors. And for lifers, the hardest part is simple. There is no after, no plan, no future, no freedom. Many inmates say the same haunting sentence: the day you realize no one is coming to get you, that's the day Angola wins. Some cope by reading, religion, routine, exercise, art, forming brotherhoods, mentoring younger prisoners. Others don't cope at all. They withdraw. They deteriorate. They disappear into themselves. Many men at Angola are physically alive, but mentally gone. Death row, the final waiting room. Angola's death row is unlike any other place in prison. It is quieter, colder, more sterile, almost detached from reality. Here, 60-plus men wait for a date that may never come, yet could come at any time. Every cell is single man. Inside, a steel bed, a thin mattress, a toilet, a Bible, and more silence than any human mind is built to handle. Death row is not a place of violence. It's a place of inevitability. Most men here have been confined for decades, appealing their cases again and again. Some maintain innocence. Some admit guilt. Some have accepted their fate. Others wake up every morning hoping for a miracle. What haunts the staff the most isn't the executions. It's the quiet mornings on the row, where a man opens his eyes not knowing if today is the day a guard will appear at his door and say, "Pack your property. It's time." And when that moment comes, the hallway goes silent. Conversations stop. Even the men in their cells instinctively lower their voices because they know what comes next. The walk, the room, the phone calls, the injections, the end. In Angola, death row isn't a sentence. It's a slow erosion of hope. Hospice, where inmates care for inmates. If death row is where sentences end, hospice is where lives end. Angola is famous for having one of the most compassionate, yet emotionally devastating hospice programs in the country. Here, dying inmates are cared for not by nurses, but by other inmates. This is where hardened men, lifers, killers, gang members, become caretakers. They bathe the dying, feed them, talk to them, sit with them through long nights, and hold their hands when they take their last breath. One hospice volunteer once said, "When you're holding a man who's dying, you stop seeing his charges. You just see a human being." Another said, "The first time I closed another inmate's eyes after he passed, I cried for hours." These volunteers live with their own demons, but in hospice, they find something rare inside a maximum security prison: purpose, compassion, humanity. Hospice is where Angola's toughest men learn the one truth the outside world rarely sees. Most inmates just don't want to die alone. And in this place, they don't have to. The legends of Angola, men who shaped the prison. Every prison has its legends, men whose names echo long after they're gone. In Angola, 3 stories stand out above the rest. 1. Herman Wallace and Albert Woodfix, the Angola Three. 2 men kept in solitary confinement for over 40 years, the longest in American history. Their story became a worldwide symbol of prison injustice. 23 hours per day in a tiny cell. Years without seeing the sun. Limited human contact. Extreme psychological torture. Whether you believe they were innocent or guilty, one fact remains. No human being is built to survive 40 years in a cage the size of a bathroom, yet they endured. 2. Burrow Kane, the controversial warden. Burrow Kane ran Angola for 21 years. Some call him the man who saved the prison. Others call him the man who turned it into a religious empire. Kane introduced the Rodeo expansion, large-scale farming programs, faith-based rehabilitation, strict discipline. He was praised. He was criticized. He was investigated. But one thing is undeniable. He left a mark on Angola no one else could erase. 3. Big Kenny, the enforcer, a man whose name is whispered in stories all across the compound. He wasn't part of a gang. He wasn't trying to rule anything. He was simply powerful. At 6 feet 6 inches, nearly 300 pounds, with a reputation forged from fights no one could forget, Big Kenny enforced unwritten order in Angola for almost a decade. New inmates avoided him. Veterans respected him. Even guards stepped carefully around him. He kept peace not through threats, but through presence. Even after he died in the hospice unit, men still speak of him like he's watching from the tiers. Daily routines. Angola is a world of repetition. Every day in Angola follows a rhythm, one that becomes so ingrained, prisoners say they can feel it even in their sleep. 5 a.m., wake-up call. A loud buzzer. Metal doors clanging. Guards shouting orders. No matter who you are or what sentence you're serving, your day starts the same. 5:30 a.m. count. A guard stands at your cell, looks you in the eyes, and confirms you are still alive. 6 a.m. breakfast. Cold grits. a biscuit. Some mornings a slice of sausage. If you're lucky. Men joke that the food never changes because the cooks lost the recipe book in 1979. 7 a.m. work assignments. Every able-bodied inmate works. Jobs range from field labor, kitchen duty, laundry, wood shop, metal factory, textile shop, maintenance, chapel work. Refusing work? Not an option, unless you want disciplinary lockdown. Noon lunch. More carbs and protein. More starch than anything else. A survival meal, not a satisfying one. 1 p.m. afternoon work/classes. GED programs. Vocational training. Angola's famous seminary school. Or back to the fields. 4:30 p.m. dinner. Often the smallest meal of the day. Some inmates save their bread to eat later. 5 p.m. recreation/showers/calls. This is when fights happen. Deals are made. Arguments flare. Secrets are exchanged. And friendships or feuds begin. 10 p.m. lights out. But in Angola, the night never really sleeps. Distant shouts. Tears echoing. Metallic rattles. Men talking through vents. Guards walking the hall. Every sound reminds you you're not alone. And you are never free. The dark secrets of Angola, they don't want you to know. Angola has been sued, investigated, and criticized for decades. Many controversies happen behind closed doors. Extreme solitary confinement. Some men have spent years in isolation the size of a walk-in closet. Brutal living conditions. Overcrowded tiers. Lack of air conditioning in brutal Louisiana summers. Rat and roach infestations. Excessive use of force. Multiple lawsuits accuse the staff of beating inmates, especially during searches or lockdowns. Retaliation. Speaking out can lead to sudden punishments. Lost privileges, cell shakedowns, even transfers to harsher camps. Medical neglect. Many inmate deaths have been linked to inadequate health care or slow emergency responses. Racial disparities. Black inmates have historically faced harsher discipline and more strenuous work assignments. None of these issues are simple. None are fully resolved. And none erase the truth. Angola is a place where suffering is woven into the walls. The prison church. Faith, power, and redemption. One of the most unusual parts of Angola is its massive prison church system, the largest in the United States. For decades, inmates have filled these pews. Some come for salvation. Some come for comfort. Some come for protection. Some come because faith is the only freedom they have left. And others come because it is politically smart. Inside these walls, religion is culture, but also currency. The seminary, in partnership with the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, Angola built a full seminary program inside the prison. Lifers become pastors. Pastors become leaders. Leaders become stabilizers. Many experts say Angola remained peaceful because the seminary gave men a purpose. Others argue it gave the administration a powerful tool. Convert the men, control the men. But no one can deny the transformation. Hardened criminals became mentors. Violent gang members became counselors. Killers became preachers who help other killers confront the weight of their past. Some men preach from the pulpit. Some preach in their dorm. Some preach in the fields. Because here, faith isn't just belief. It's a survival strategy. The politics of prayer. In Angola, religion can open doors no other path can. Better job assignments. Respect from staff. Peace with other inmates. Reduce conflicts. A safer day-to-day existence. But this comes with suspicion. Some inmates whisper that religion is the new gang. Others believe faith is manipulated to keep people compliant. The truth, as always in Angola, lies somewhere in the middle. When you cage thousands of men for decades, some will become monsters, some will become mentors, and some will become both. Forbidden relationships, the unseen emotional economy. Prisons are built to stop physical escapes, but they cannot stop emotional ones. And behind every tier, every job post, every kitchen shift, there are relationships no one is supposed to talk about. Inmate relationships. Some are violent. some transactional, some built on desperation, some built on survival, and some, believe it or not, are genuine love. These relationships come with severe consequences if discovered: segregation, transfers, loss of privileges, increased supervision, targeting from other inmates. Yet they still happen, because loneliness is its own kind of prison, and Angola is a place overflowing with it. Guard, inmate relationships. These are rarer, but far more dangerous. When they happen, they can upend entire units. A guard sneaking in contraband, a forbidden friendship that becomes leverage, a favor that turns into manipulation, a moment of sympathy that becomes vulnerability, a secret that becomes a weapon. Angola has seen officers fired, arrested, and even imprisoned because of these relationships. Because in a place where one wrong alliance can get a man killed, trust becomes the most powerful and most dangerous currency of all. Lockdowns, when Angola stops breathing. A lockdown in Angola is a storm. No warning, no explanation, no negotiation. When a major incident erupts, a stabbing, a riot threat, a gang retaliation, the entire compound freezes. What a lockdown means: all inmates confined to their cells, meals delivered cold in paper bags, zero outside recreation, no programs, no phone calls, guards on high alert, tension like a wire pulled tight. A lockdown transforms Angola from a living system into a suffocating box. The air gets hotter, patience gets thinner, arguments explode through vents. Mental health breaks down within hours. By day 3, men start yelling. By day 5, the noise becomes unbearable. By day 10, the silence between the screaming becomes even worse. One inmate described it like being trapped inside your own mind while the world burns around you. The search teams, during lockdowns, specialized extraction teams sweep the tiers. They search every cell frame, vent, mattress, book, toothpaste tube, toilet bowl, looking for weapons, drugs, phones, anything that keeps the underground economy alive. They flip mattresses, dump bins, rip apart commissary bags, destroy handmade radios, or shanks men spent hours crafting. And when they leave, the cell looks like a hurricane hit it. The man inside feels like a storm passed through his life. Riots and revolts, when the tension erupts. Angola hasn't had many full-scale riots, but the ones that happened scarred the place forever. The most infamous occurred in the 1990s. A group of inmates took hostages, overpowered guards, and attempted to seize control of a tier. Negotiations lasted for hours. Demands piled up. Sweat gathered outside. In the end, the revolt collapsed. The leaders were beaten, shackled, and thrown into solitary for years. Angola learned that day. When violence erupts here, it erupts with biblical force. And the men learned. The prison will always respond with something stronger. The psychology of a lifer. There is a difference between someone doing 5 years and someone doing forever. A lifer in Angola goes through stages. 1, denial. This can't be my life. I'll appeal it. 2, fighting. Anger. Resentment. Conflicts with inmates. Conflicts with staff. Conflicts with themselves. 3, numbness. Time stops having meaning. Days blur. Birthdays vanish. Family visits slow. Letters fade. 4, acceptance. Routine becomes life. Work becomes purpose. Friendships become family. Prison becomes normal. 5, transformation. Some men change. Some grow. Some become better than they ever were on the outside. And some never escape the darkest stage. 6, collapse. This is when the mind breaks. When hope corrodes. When the man who first stepped into Angola no longer exists. A former warden once said, "The walls don't break a man. Time does." And Angola is built on time. The inmate phone system, the lifeline and the noose. The phone is the most emotional object in Angola. It is a lifeline to children growing up without you, wives trying to hold the family together, mothers aging faster than you remember, A world that moves on without asking if you're okay. But it is also a weapon. Phones are monitored, conversations recorded, voices analyzed. One threatening word, one coded message, one wrong sentence. And a man can lose privileges for months. Worse, phones become targets during gang wars. If one group controls a phone station, another group might fight for access. At night, when the tears go quiet, you can hear inmates whispering through vents. Did you get a call? What did she say? Did your daughter write? Is your mom okay? When's the next time you hear from them? Because the cruelest part of incarceration is not losing freedom. It's watching the world move on without you. Angola, a place where time doesn't just pass. It sinks, where every second hangs in the air like dust over the fields. And every life inside these walls becomes a story carved in stone. Tonight, you've walked with us through the past and the present. You've seen the fields where men labor under a sun that doesn't forgive. You've heard the stories of redemption, of regret, of survival. And you've stared into the beating heart of a prison that has shaped and scarred generations. But Angola's walls don't just hold inmates. They hold the echoes of the ones who came before, the voices, the footsteps, the ghosts. And as we leave this place behind, remember this. Prisons don't exist in the past. They live in the present. And their stories, these raw, uncomfortable, human stories, deserve to be heard. If this documentary opened your eyes, if it gave you something to think about, then help us bring more of these hidden truths to light. Like the video, share it with someone who needs to see it, and subscribe for more deep dive investigations into the places most people will never step foot inside. This is more than a prison. This is Angola, and its story is still being written.